Okay, a little bit about me. So I'm Louise McCarthy, CIO Digital Transformation Director at EBRD, where I've been for 15 months. Previously, I've undertaken about 7 or 8 major transformation programs spanning public and private sector, telecoms, financial services, and retail sectors. What I do is what I do in terms of the transformation works in all industries and all sectors. I take along things in my kit bag, and they've improved each time I've gone on in each transformation. Probably the largest transformation I've undertaken is HMRC, so obviously it's the UK tax authority. I went in there just as it was about to, or needed to, produce an online tax filing system because it was all very manual. Many of the IT systems have been around since 1066, and that's not a joke. It had about 600 applications that weren't integrated. The processes were slow, laborious. And the other thing I had to do is I reported into the CFO. And it was a time of austerity measures, so they had a burning platform. So was it not just about doing the digital transformation, but it was about doing it in a cost-effective way as well. So I was reporting into the CFO as well as into the CEO in the IT side of things. And my first day, I recall it very well, the CFO said to me, and I was responsible for £1.7 billion of budget, "You're too fat." So I looked at him and thought, yeah, okay, what am I going to do about that? So I took up training for the marathon, and I also introduced a number of tools, one mainly around cost transparency, to actually prove to him that we can make a saving. And the long and the short of that transformation at the HMRC was we took those IT costs down from £1.7 billion to £700 million by using some of the tools and techniques that I'm going to briefly share with you today. So each of the other ones, for example, Aviva. Aviva, as many of you probably aware, is a financial institution. It also had a burning platform. It wasn't publicly known, but the company was about to go under, and it needed to save £300 million. It needed to be online digital. It needed to compete with the other digital online players. And a very similar story, using the tools and the technology and the processes that I introduced at HMRC, we managed to save £300 million off the IT cost base in Aviva in less than 12 months. The company then became sustainable and is doing very well, thank you now. So it's very similar. I've been brought into EBRD to do a very similar exercise, but they don't have a burning platform as such. So it's not necessarily about saving money, but it's about being more efficient. I think most of you are probably aware of EBRD, but I wasn't before I actually joined the organisation, so it was quite new for me to join this type of organisation, a mixture between a financial institution and a public sector. But from my previous experience in previous organisations, I knew I could help. So EBRD was going to be a sunset bank, as most of you are aware. It was only going to live for 15 years. So as a result of that, it didn't invest in the right technology and the right processes. And the people in terms of the IT organisation was mainly held together by contractors. We didn't invest in those contractors, so they weren't upskilled, and many of those contractors have been there for over 25 years now. So we didn't invest long-term in investment. But 25 years on, I think we've come to the agreement that the bank's doing well, and we need to do something about the back office processes, the digitalisation, and being more efficient. So 15 months ago, the President created a programme called OE&E, which is Operational Efficiency and Effectiveness. And it is about looking back at the whole organisation end-to-end, looking at its people, its processes and its technology, and saying how do we bring ourselves to the digital 21st century to make sure we're delivering what the business and the clients need to be far more efficient. So I was brought in 15 months ago as the Digital Transformation Director, looking at 2 halves. One, how can we digitalise the back office processes and the systems for our clients? And the other half, looking at the internal IT organisation and saying how can we be fit for purpose to ensure that we can continue on with this flexibility and continuously innovating and delivering change for the organisation. So the objectives of the OE&E programme was enabling us to have increased scalability and cost efficiency, make sure that the IT organisation is far more focused on the client and business needs rather than just the internal side of the business, and stronger emphasis is going to be on performance and results. So we needed to flip the IT organisation upside down and make sure that its first thought is about the client and the business needs. It's about making sure we're a service-centric with continuous improvement, and we deliver our change programs in an agile and lean way, with an ecosystem of suppliers to support us on that, with outcome-based organisation, which is a radical focus change and a cultural change for the IT organisation that's currently in existence. So we had to think about, we needed to look at the increasing demands for IT, and as IT technologies are changing. The IT department wasn't wrong as in such, but the world around it was beginning to change. The business needs were beginning to change. With the introduction of the digital technologies, the Internet of Things, more enhanced use of smarter technology, bigger data analytics, and move to the cloud. All of this means that we can be more efficient as an organisation in terms of cloud and SaaS-based. So it means we're going to reduce our costs. And we're going to introduce big data analytics to ensure that we're focused more on self-serve client needs and predictive analysis. And then making sure we're enabling our business users, our internal users, to have the right technology where and when they need it, so they can access data, mobile, rather than today they're walking around with wads of paper. And then it's thinking about future Internet of Things and future technologies. It's about thinking about drones, for example, and how we can use them in our business for our clients, to circulate perhaps in some of our developing countries, to look at our transition, to measure it from a drone rather than physically sending people out there, and then sending that data back to our big data platform to enable us to predict and share more data with our clients. So how are we addressing that? So we need to just start off thinking about what our strategy should be within the IT organisation. So we pulled together a number of strategies, one around digital and data framework. So that's going to be the framework that all IT is going to be built on going forward. It's about outsourcing of our services. What's the most appropriate services we'd source from third parties, and which ones must we keep in-house? It's around the digital capability around DevOps. And the data framework is the thing that we build in all of our future technology where possible. And it's about transparency around APIs, which means our change can be faster and quicker and our clients are going to be happier. So when I joined 15 months ago, I needed to think about how could I take this organisation that hasn't done change in 25 years. Technology's moved on and they've left way, way behind. We needed to reshape the IT organisation, but I also needed to bring the business on board with me on the journey. The problem we were faced with is the business got fed up with IT because they never delivered anything. Everything took 2 years. Requirements took a yellow pages, I don't know if you have yellow pages here, but a big telephone directory size of requirements. It would basically, the business weren't engaged. They went off and built their own thing. There was shadow IT everywhere, the applications weren't joined up, nothing was aligned to a single strategy. And the organisation wasn't working in an enterprise way. So I needed to create a programme of work which I could get everybody on board and solve all those problems. So I started off by engaging Avasant, which was good for me, because this little own island that I was on my own, I didn't have much support around me. There wasn't a mass of people in the organisation that have ever done change before. Every time I suggested something, they all thought I had 2 heads and I was crazy. So I had Avasant there to be my guiding light and my support as subject matter experts when I was facing off to the business. So we created 5 pillars. The first one was about enable. So this was basically understanding what did the business actually need? Not what does it want, but what did it need? Not about what IT fancied giving them, but it's what the business needed. So we spent an amount of time understanding what the change programs were that the business needed and what the run side of systems and technology the business needed to do their jobs properly. And we broke that into persona user groups. So it wasn't a one-size-fits-all IT. It depended on what your needs were, what technology and what applications we would provide to you. So we understood the business in terms of enable with the persona user groups and what services we needed to deliver. The next area was, well, we've got the services, we know what IT needs to deliver, so how do we deliver it? Do we deliver it in-house? Do we deliver it with third parties? So we wrote a sourcing strategy, and that's quite a straightforward one. It's common, it's industry standards. If it's a transactional related system or service that's needed to be delivered, we'd outsource it. And eventually over time, if you've got a good outsourcing contract with continuous improvement, most of that will be automated anyway, and you'll be able to reduce your costs as you move forward. Then we came to the resourcing strategy. So what retained organisation did EBRD IT need to deliver those services post-outsourcing? It was radically different from the one we have today, and a radically different set of skills required to deliver it. We needed to start off with a business relationship function, which was very, very new to both the business and the IT department of EBRD. So that was continuously working with the business in terms of their demands and their needs and their services, etc. Because we were outsourcing more, we needed to create a vendor relationship management function, so enhancing our skills in that space. There was never any commercial negotiations or commercial performance management function, so we created that as well to make sure that all the deals we were getting and every penny of spend within IT was proven value for money. We never had a digital and data framework before, so therefore we didn't have any digital and data skills. So therefore we needed to enhance the skills in an enterprise level to make sure that we were covering that off as well, and so on. The next area was modernise. So we have over 140 applications. You might think, well, that's not many. But for the size of EBRD and for what we do and the number of transactions that we have, which is about 400 a year, we don't need 140 applications that are all siloed and don't talk to each other. So we needed to modernise what we've got. We need to define that platform which aligns to the digital and data strategy to make sure that when we build things in future, it's quick and agile and the business gets what they need and it's all in a joined up way. So we created a digital and data strategy to align to that. And then the final piece is the optimise. So how do we look at the application roadmap and say, what should we decommission now? How are we going to fund the decommissioning? So we looked at all of our 140 applications and done an assessment of them. And believe it or not, only 16% of those applications are based on what the business needs are. Half of them are not being used. They're not joined up. They're hugely expensive. And some of them are even bespoke off-the-shelf systems, which means every time we change something, it takes 2 years. So Optimise is about taking that roadmap and taking every single one of those applications and saying when and how can we decommission them. So as a result of that, we've got 3 KPI measures. The first one is to increase the permanent employee versus temporary ratio. It does also mean, probably don't want to quote this publicly, but there may be a reduction in our overall headcount numbers within the IT organisation, which has grown organically with contractors over the last 25 years with a little control around commercial evaluation. The next one is optimise the number of applications, as I said. And the next one is realise an X number of annualised savings over the next 18 months. And those annualised savings are being reinvested in the whole transformation programme, which means it's going to be net neutral. I've not gone cap in hand to the shareholders and said I need X million pound more to do this transformation programme. I've committed to self-fund it with the savings that I'm delivering from this programme. So I've actually talked about this slide. So this is just talking, as I suggested, on the 5 pillars. I've gone through the details on that previous slide, apologies. So what did I need to do to get the business on board? So this blonde woman comes in, quite cocky and challenging and telling everybody I'm going to solve the world and I'm going to cut costs, I'm going to make you more efficient, I'm going to digitalise you. And the business are looking at me and the IT people are looking at me and saying, yeah, come on, man, we're waiting for you. So I needed to work on a way how I was going to get that business on board with me. So obviously Avasant was one of my tools in my kit box. But the other one was I needed to get engagement from the senior stakeholders. They had a huge problem, not just an IT problem, but they had a problem that they needed to digitalise and automate their back office systems that hadn't been done for 25 years. There's not been any investment. So there's just as much importance on them as it was for me in IT to make sure we make this a success. So I decided to draw up 4 ways of working, and I took it through the whole of the organisation to get buy-in, to say, sign in blood, if we're going to do this together, we're going to deliver this whole OE&E programme in a more efficient way, and you as clients get an outcome. So the first one was about commitment. And we wanted full involvement from the business and time and resources to help us deliver this transformation program from a business side. The business are the experts, not IT. They know what their business needs are. They know what the processes are. They know what the client needs. In the past, it was IT doing it to the business, and we didn't want that moving forward. The next one was about ownership. The business need to own their processes. IT will own the strategy, which we build it upon, but we needed the business to own their processes. So it's not about us taking an off-the-shelf system like we used to do and bespoke it to death. We needed the business to think about changing their processes to make the systems work better. And then there was collaboration. This is about working together with the business needs to come up with appropriate solutions to enable us to deliver them against these strategies we've spoken about. And the final one, if I've said something more than 1 million times since I've been in EBRD, it's trust me. But that doesn't wash with anybody. So I've said I'm going to put trust me in, but let me take you on the journey before you're going to say, yes, you're going to trust me. And I'll talk about that one now. I'm pleased to say I'm getting some trust. But it is about trust IT. Don't try and come up with the solutions. Just because it's been happening in the past, the world is a different place now. So trust me. So I've had everybody in the organisation from the top, from the president down now, to sign up to this. So whenever I'm in a meeting and I hear somebody saying, oh yeah, but IT didn't do that last year, so why are they going to do it this year? Or, yeah, it's your problem, not my problem. I've got a red card. So I call it out if they're not aligning to these 4 ways of working that us, IT, and the business signed up to. So I mentioned the modernisation and about the digital and data approach. And this is the strategy that I've written. It's quite modern. It's about big data platforms. It's around a Hadoop platform. It's around what data do we need to ingest into a platform. It's about the data governance around it, the cleansing of that data, because it's all right putting garbage in, but if it's going to be garbage out, it's not going to mean anything. You can put the best IT systems in the world, but nobody's going to ever take any notice if you've got the wrong data. So we've also got the business to engage with us in terms of cleansing the data moving forward. It's about our open source and having API enabled so we can make future change faster and quicker. And on top of that, we've got the DevOps tools, and we're working on microservices. So in the past, if we had a business problem, we'd build something from new, or we'd take something off the shelf, and we'd bespoke it, but it was never integrated, and it was on a standalone basis. What we're saying now is it's all about data. The focus is around the data and the digital. All the data we have today is going to be ingested into one single platform. That could be structured or unstructured data. We have probably 400 or 500 page contracts, and every single one of those contracts is different for every client. Well, we make it different. Doesn't necessarily need to be, but we do. And that data is rekeyed, or it's put in an envelope, and it's passed hand in hand from one place to the next. Those days are going to go. We'll be able to bring that data in as unstructured data into this platform, and we can standardize our policies and processes, because that needs to be changed as well. And then on top of that, when we have a business problem moving forward, it's about building microservices on the top of that. And then those microservices can be built in an agile way in 6 or 7 weeks, tested by the business, integrated, and next time the business say they want to change, we've gone away from this 24 months change program that's hugely expensive, done in a waterfall way, from the huge amount of requirements, and 2 years later IT give it back to the business and they go, oh, that's not what I wanted, or the world's changed, or technology's changed, or requirements changed, and then IT's the problem. Moving forward in this way, we can make change faster, quicker, the business are engaged, and it's far lower cost. So one of the programs that we created was the full end-to-end deal lifecycle program, which is basically taking processes across the whole of EBRD and putting it into one single system so it talks together in an agile, in an integrated way. And this is the big program that the business are fully engaged, fully brought in, and they want IT to deliver. And this is the one I had the 4 ways of working signed up for. We called it Project Monarch. I think it's turning in from a caterpillar into a butterfly. We're going to have something beautiful at the end of all of this. The business designed this word, so great, we're all on board. So how? Big, huge mammoth task. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a project board meeting and everybody was scratching their heads saying, how are we going to develop this? And I said, well, the whole point we've created the digital and data framework is to be able to deliver this for you. And they all started scratching their heads and saying, yeah, but it's going to take 2 years and it's going to be millions and millions of pounds and we don't know whether it's going to work and IT never deliver. Red card came out. And I came up with an idea. My idea was, I would say, quite visionary. I've got a commercial background. And I sat in the meeting with the stakeholders and said, like, why don't we go out to tender, RFP, and go to a number of suppliers and say, who wants a piece of this action of EBRD? We want you to build the first 7 epics of an agile journey, or it's the first 7 pieces of functionality of what we call our Monarch program, or I call it the elephant. Free of charge. And they all laughed. Yeah, who's ever going to do that? Nobody's ever going to do that. I said, no, watch this. So I managed to persuade them, trust me, I said, trust me. So we went out to RFP. They did trust me, and they let me do it. We went out to RFP, and we had 14 suppliers respond to that RFP, free of charge. There was a catch. We would narrow those 14 suppliers down to 4 suppliers. And we'd have a bake-off over 8 weeks for these suppliers to build all of the 7 epics. But there were some conditions. They needed to engage with our business, giving them agile training on the journey on a week-by-week basis. So the business were there with the suppliers, 4 suppliers. They took a whole floor of EBRD, working in an agile way, delivering these 7 epics. And then the winner of those 4, which will be judged on conditions of that they bring the business on board with them and the business are engaged in this agile way of working. They produce actual outcomes. So we actually have 7 pieces of functionality that we can use, and we can judge it based on that functionality. That we don't pay a penny, and we get used to a partner that we're going to sign a contract with. And the winner of that will get the rest of the elephant as one single contract. And it worked. It was a huge success. The business are buzzing. They're actually seeing their output for the first time ever in terms of epics built. They can really see their products at the end of it. It's like a child with in a sweet shop now. I can't ever take it away. I've got to let them have it. And we're just on the final negotiations now with the supplier to decide which supplier is going to win the whole contract. So what that means for us is it means the business are engaged now. They're starting to trust me. We've had 7 pieces of functionality built free of charge. We're used to working with this supplier that we're going to select, and the business are on their agile journey. So we're hugely excited. For the first time ever, IT are working in collaboration with the business and a supplier to deliver this full end-to-end deal lifecycle application in an agile way that sits on our digital and data framework moving forward. So that's our Project Monarch, and it's one of many programs that we're going to be done in a very similar way. So part of my other things in my kit bag that I mentioned earlier was how do we make our transformation sustainable? And the number one thing, which you might think is a bit of a strange thing when we're talking about digital, but it's about cost transparency. So you heard me mention earlier that we've identified the services that the business need, and that they're the services that IT need to deliver. But we need to just start working out in EBRD how much do each of those services cost today, and how much is being consumed of those services by the business, and how much of it really is just dead money that we're paying for services that nobody's ever using. So I always come in, number one, and build a cost transparency tool, which basically gives a unit price of all the services that we deliver. It gives us a consumption of who in the business is consuming them. And it breaks my whole budget bottom up, so I can see and validate where all the benefits are going to come from. The next area is being able to identify key performance indicators. That's creating a performance hub in the IT department. So everybody in IT is fully accountable from the top of the organisation to the bottom in terms of making sure we're completely aligned in delivering those services to our internal customers in an innovative way with continuous improvement that we can be held accountable and measure ourselves against it. And some of the other things I've highlighted here is obviously PMO is obviously a must when you're doing this sort of change program. But moving from a waterfall methodology to an agile methodology comes with very different measures in terms of commercial deals, but measuring people, like holding them accountable when they don't know at the beginning what good's going to look like because they're on an agile journey. And then the final thing is activity-based tracking. I want to know now, moving forward, that all the IT staff are working on, so we can actually cost things to a fully loaded way. So we don't end up in the state we are today, where we've got a huge number of contractors, and I don't know, if somebody says to me they want another contractor, do I know whether they need one or not? What are they working on? So it's about activity tracking to make sure that all of the resources in IT are fully productive and we're delivering value for money for our business. Nearly there. So one of the other things, or a couple of the other things I've also introduced, it's all right having these project monarchs, this great tool, but if we're not putting it on some really innovative technology, then the business aren't getting an idea of what's going on in the outside world in terms of how they can look and see things. So a few weeks ago, I decided to create an innovation hub at EBRD, and invited in a number of suppliers to showcase their new technology. So we had, for example, agile walls. So I don't know if many of you have meeting rooms, but you've got the yellow stickers stuck all over the wall, and then nobody else is allowed to go in that room because that whole room is used for that one program. What a waste of floor space. So now we've got this new technology, which is an agile wall. So it's a span around a meeting room, and it's digital. So if you want to do your agile way of working or your project management, you have a USB stick or your laptop, and it puts everything on the screen, and then you take it away, and the room's free for somebody else to use. We also had what I call magic mirrors, where we could interact with our regional offices in one place. So it's like a collaboration by collision. So if you're walking past a corridor, you've got 9 iPads on the wall, and those 9 iPads are connected to iPads in the regional offices, so you can get to know people like a corridor walk. So we had about 60 different suppliers showing their technology to us, and you're going to guess what I'm going to say, but it was all free of charge. We managed to get these innovative ideas from the suppliers. Obviously, not everything's free of charge. They will expect us, if we want to keep it permanently, to pay for it. But what it did for the business is it got them thinking about how we could use digital technology to help move their business forward. We had the drones flying around. And I remember the president saying to me, how's that going to help us? And I said exactly that story I said earlier. If we had a drone flying around in some of our countries where we've got transition going on, where a dam's being built or a bridge is being built, or whether we've got a field agricultural field, and we want to have a look at it, we want to send people out there, that data can be sent back to our big data platform within seconds. So this technology showcase went down really well, and everybody's buzzing, so we've decided to do it now more regularly. And we've also invented, we haven't invented the Genius Bar, I think Apple might have invented that, but we decided to have an EBRD Genius Bar in our reception, because people got fed up with IT not being there where the clients needed it, so we put it in the coffee shop. So there's a Genius Bar in our coffee shop now, so if anybody's got any IT problems, they're walking past to get their coffee, we're there to help them fix it at the same time as well. So we're on the start of a journey. It's very exciting. I've got the business now beginning to trust me. They're beginning to come on board with what I'm trying to do, and it's very exciting for us. So just to wrap, I think if I had to say what are the main things that make digital transformation a success, transparency is everything. Start off with that transparency around cost, performance measures, baselining everything so you can prove what you're doing works. Doing a one-off cleanse, so looking at things that you're not using and decommission them, because that generates millions of savings that you can reinvest into future digital programs. And if you don't have to go and ask the CFO for more money, then it's going to be an easier sell to actually try and deliver this. Be at the heart of the customer journey in everything we do. So it's not about IT anymore, it's about the business. And it's continuously measuring everything we're delivering, challenging everything. Now, I'm a bit of a witch because I challenge everybody for everything, but it seems to work. Innovation, so get those suppliers working for you. You don't have to do everything yourself. You don't have to be the subject matter experts. And honestly, you really can get a lot of free stuff from suppliers if you just ask. And the employees are involved in things like hackathons now. We're doing our own hackathons, other ways of solving some of the business needs problems quickly. And all of that really makes it sustainable. Because I don't want to do another transformation program at EBRD in 3 years. So with all this stuff going on, we hopefully won't ever have to. Thank you.